All sorts of developers and publishers make games in this industry. There's platformers, there's RPGs, but many series can't really reach what Nintendo's been able to do with the Super Mario Bros. Series. And with the latest release, Super Mario Odyssey, just coming out, and this game actually reached the top of the sales charts when it comes to 3D mainline Mario games. What is cracking, everyone? OG over here from PlayerEssence, and today we're going to be talking about Super Mario and the 3D games, and if Super Mario Odyssey can ever become the greatest selling Super Mario 3D game of all time, modern mainline game. In order to provide perspective for this, we have to go back all the way to the N64, look at the sales, evaluate the system, see what went down, then kind of move on from there. So we're going to start off all the way back in 1996 with Super Mario 64. I'm sure many of you guys know about this game. It's one of the greatest games of all time. It's really what started the 3D platformer, at least what started it right. There might have been games before then, but none of them did it as good as Super Mario 64. It had the analog control, and it was just buttery smooth to play, even back then. Heck, you can still pick it up today and have a lot of fun and play it. It's just a great game overall. And on the N64, Super Mario 64 ended up selling nearly 12 million units, 11.91 million according to the fandom wiki as far as Mario goes. And I cross-referenced as far as what Nintendo has said so far and any official information that we've gotten. Now, this doesn't include the digital sales. Obviously, Super Mario 64 has been resold on multiple different platforms, from the Wii to the Wii U. Obviously, you can play it on the Nintendo DS with the updated stuff. We're just talking about the vanilla releases as far as the mainline Mario games. And selling 12 million units plus, that's actually pretty good. Obviously, the Nintendo 64 wasn't a failure by any means, but it wasn't like a rousing success. It didn't reach the levels of the Super Nintendo or the NES. It got to about 32 million, 30 something million or so. So overall, it was an okay system when it comes to the sales. And Super Mario 64 was obviously one of the best selling games on the platform, selling to about 33% or more of people who actually had the N64. So I'd obviously call that a success, and really where the 3D platforming genre got started. Now, moving on to the next thing here, it took a little bit of time, but then on the GameCube in 2002, we got Super Mario Sunshine. Now, this is probably one of the most controversial 3D Mario games, and it seemed like it sold that way somewhat. Now, the GameCube was even less of a successful system than the N64, selling about 21 million, and Super Mario Sunshine had sold around 6.31 million as far as units go. Now, Super Mario Sunshine hasn't really been released, like, again, in any other form for digital sales or anything like that. So these sales numbers are pretty much final so far for Super Mario Sunshine. And like I said, it was controversial. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Super Mario Sunshine. I didn't like the flood, and we recently found out information that Super Mario Sunshine wasn't even going to be like the type of game that it ended up being. It was like a disaster and recovery type of game that Nintendo had to completely rework it as far as what they wanted to do with the game. So it kind of seems like, coming off the massive success of Mario 64, Nintendo was trying to do something completely different, kind of reinvent the wheel, and they did somewhat. And I think a lot of fans did end up loving the game, but a lot of fans didn't end up liking it, and maybe that showed in the sales results somewhat, because it took a pretty steep cut from Super Mario 64. Although you do have to factor in that the GameCube just wasn't as successful as the N64. Now, moving on to the next game, and this one's interesting as well, because this is kind of where Nintendo made their resurgence. It was with Super Mario Galaxy in 2007 on the Wii, and that game was an outstanding success pretty much in every single way, shape, or form. You have the game selling over 12.75 million units, so it's really good. Obviously, the Wii was a huge success for Nintendo. That system sold over 101 million units. It's Nintendo's most successful home console of all time, and up until that point, it was Nintendo's most successful 3D Mario game of all time, and really still is Nintendo's most successful 3D Mario game from a critically reviewed standpoint, and also from a sales standpoint and from a home console standpoint. Super Mario Galaxy is pretty much the pinnacle of 3D Marios as far as from Nintendo and a business sense. It's on Nintendo's most popular home console of all time. It's the highest selling 3D Mario game of all time, and it's one of the critically best reviewed games of all time. And at one point did hold that title depending on what aggregate site you go to, whether it's Metacritic or Game Rankings or anything like that. Now, I played the game in 2007, pretty much launch day, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great mix of just basically the classic Mario that you would see. It didn't feel too different, but at the same time, it did. You had the gravity and you had all the different stuff that you can interact with and move, and how you were blasting off from planet to planet. Had some nice remote integration with collecting star bits and shooting them. A lot of great levels, a lot of secrets. There was just a ton of stuff to do in the game, and it was personally one of my favorite games of all time and one of my favorite 3D Mario games of all time. Now, Nintendo saw that and said, you know what, maybe we can do a little bit more with this. So they thought about doing DLC for the game, but they kept on adding to it, and it actually became its own game, and that's how we got Super Mario Galaxy 2, which came out in 2010 for the Wii. Now, that game didn't quite sell as much as Super Mario Galaxy on the Wii. It sold around 7.67 million units, and then, of course, not including digital. Pretty sure it tacked on a bit more there. And this game actually one-upped Super Mario Galaxy pretty much in every single way. It had more levels. I think it had a better map. You just kind of went through like an overview map, and you just kind of went into the levels. It was really fun. It was quick. It was easy. It had some great power-ups. There was just as much challenge with the game. I think probably even a little bit more challenge than the first Mario Galaxy. All the stuff that you would expect. And it was just an amazing game to play through. But I think it came out later in the Wii's life. By 2010, 2011, the Wii was pretty much dying at that point. We started getting rumors of this whole Project Cafe type of deal, which ended up being the Wii U. By 2011, it was full-blown Project Cafe, and people were just like, what's this Wii thing? And Nintendo pretty much had moved on as well. And I think they were struggling when it comes to the ideas and what they were trying to do for software and everything. So that's why we saw a lack of software for the Wii. Ended up seeing a lack of software for the Wii U at the launch too, when it comes to first-party content. And, you know, it's one of those things for me. I love Super Mario Galaxy 2, and heck, 7.67 million units, that's not any slouch by any means. It just didn't quite sell up as much as Galaxy, but it was still an amazing game and still sold quite a bit. Now, moving just 1 year after that, we're talking about mainline 3D games, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in Super Mario 3D Land into the mix. Now, once again, this is the next most successful game in the line of 3D Mario games. This one came out in 2011. I've actually 100% plus this like twice. Like, seriously, I think I played through this game 2 times and 100%ed it both of the times. It is a fantastic game, and it sold fantastically. 11.33 million units worldwide. Nintendo 3DS, obviously that system is near 70 million units. So with the sales success of the 3DS and the sales success of Super Mario 3D Land, it was a great game, and it was reviewed great as well. And I think Super Mario 3D Land kind of showed what 3D can do a little bit. I thought that was the first time that you really picked up a game on the 3DS and said, man, 3D is really cool in this game. It actually has a use. Street Fighter, Pilot Wings, there are other cool games that used it, but this was the first time that I was thinking, man, with 3D, I can actually like gauge my jumps a little bit more. I can actually tell exactly with the depth perception as far as certain 3D objects. So to me, it helped. Now, the only problem was that like you had to play it on the 3DS, and they didn't have like the super stable 3D back then. So man, you really had to hold that thing kind of still. But when you did and you played it, it was still really fun, and I actually really enjoyed the game. And once again, it sold really well. 3DS is obviously a success as well. But yeah, that was 2011, and it did really well, and it actually still sells to this day. Nintendo's done some bundles, and that's not even digital sales as well. So heck, it could be over Super Mario Galaxy when it's all said and done. But moving on to the next game here, and the final one that we're going to talk about before we get into Super Mario Odyssey, the discussion, is Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U. And this is actually the worst selling, at this point, the worst selling Super Mario 3D game of all time. And I think it's because it's on Nintendo's worst selling main home console of all time. It's actually sold pretty close to where Super Mario Sunshine is at with 5.65 million. I do feel that Super Mario 3D World will eventually outsell Super Mario Sunshine. When it's all said and done, there could be re-releases, who knows at this point. There could be a digital release for the Nintendo Switch, but Super Mario 3D World was an extension of Super Mario 3D Land, just kind of done like on steroids. You had 4 players where Super Mario 3D Land there was only 1 player. You had a lot more levels where Super Mario 3D Land was pretty much cut in half as far as the levels that you can do. There's a lot more secrets. Each of the characters had a special power that they can use. There's local multiplayer. There was a lot of cool stuff, the special worlds and everything. Stuff that you saw in Super Mario 3D Land, but just kind of blown up. And Super Mario 3D World was still a great game. I just don't think people thought that they were going to do the same theme. And I think that resulted in some of the sales problems that the game did have. But it did end up selling pretty well, especially because a lot of people were knocking the game at the beginning for its sales. So overall, I do think Super Mario 3D games, man, they're interesting because they don't quite sell as much as the 2D games. The 2D games do a lot better. But we have Super Mario that just came out, and we have a really popular system with the Nintendo Switch. Right now, we don't know the sales. Obviously, the game just came out with Super Mario Odyssey. But what do you guys think? Looking back in time and looking at how good Super Mario Odyssey is doing, and the fact that Super Mario Odyssey is actually the top selling game on Amazon at this point, and it just launched. So Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the world, the CEO is pretty much the richest man in the world at this point with the whole stock surges. Amazon sells a lot of video games to people, and Super Mario Odyssey is the #1 selling game for the year, and it just launched. That is absolutely crazy, outselling The Legend of Zelda, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Horizon Zero Dawn, Destiny, and many other games out there. So it's going to be interesting to see if those sales keep up and how long will this game sell. I personally feel that Super Mario Odyssey has a great chance to become the highest selling Super Mario 3D game of all time just because of the Nintendo Switch. The system is selling at a very fast rate. Super Mario Odyssey is one of the highest rated games of all time, and I think that they just did everything right with this game. As long as the system keeps selling, this game is going to keep selling, and I think it could easily pass up 15 million units when it's all said and done. But like I said, that's just my prediction on the matter. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Can Super Mario Odyssey become the highest selling 3D Mario game of all time? I guess time will only tell. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more styles of videos like this, and subscribe to the channel for more news, reviews, discussion videos, and more topics. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next video. Peace.